usually around this time of year, we celebrate, we recognize the fruits of our labor, the work and all the efforts and achievements of our students, our youth engaged in our programs. As of last March, around mid-March, we had to very quickly shift all our programs to virtual formats. And I'm incredibly proud of the group of students, some of whom are in our panel, and you will be meeting them tonight.
And so through this project, Calle, we've been really able to explore this community, the beauty in this community, the great and powerful leaders we have, and the great and powerful kids who are going to inherit this community. Through this project, we have there's a series of portraits of notable community members and notable community leaders who have done a lot for this community. Additionally, we had scholars and researchers come together to talk about something similar to what we're going to talk about tonight. And additionally, we've also had students engage in this work and thinking about what is hip hop, what is urban culture, and in what way do these things affect our lives and our communities, and how do we have a conversation about this? Students in the hardest time of their undergraduate careers for some of them, they came together and really made this happen. They truly are the backbone of our community, and I just want to say thank you to all of you, and even the students who aren't on this panel who helped kind of close our programs and worked with us this semester. Your inclusion in our center has made all the difference, and just thank you. To move on to just some context. So I'm going to say right now, I have done quite a bit of research on not only reggaeton and hip hop, or reggaeton and hip hop, but I do want to also say that this history, unfortunately, is a little skewed. It's a little spotty. These both genres originally in primarily poor and African American communities, and because of that, the history kind of tends to get lost. However, I'm going to do my best to give you a brief and kind of quick and to the point to kind of lay some context down. So hip hop originated in the Bronx, New York City, in around the 70s. It started off as an artistic movement and kind of a party movement as well. Kids would come together and scratch records, which then became DJing and emceeing. And they began to create this art and cultural space and community for themselves. The first known hip hop recording, and when I say recording, I mean recorded on an actual album, not just played live, was Rapper's Delight. Since then, hip hop has become the #1 genre in the world recently. As of, I believe, 2016, it was the #1 genre across the globe. So not only just a big hit in the United States, but a big hit across the globe, across multiple different markets. Since then, the musical style of hip hop has evolved to something that used to rely heavily on remixing records, to something now where you use sampled beats, and the technology has greatly improved. Reggaeton has a similar trajectory. The origins, the first known origins date back to Panama and a group of DJs and kids who were making music. That music through the Panama Canal and migration traveled between Central America and the Caribbean. It most notably, early reggaeton is considered to be more Spanish reggae. So it took the reggae beats of Jamaica and Anglo-Caribbean and then just put it in Spanish. When it got to Puerto Rico in the 90s, or the late 80s and 90s, the genre became kind of what it's known for today, which is a more syncopated rhythm, a very Caribbean style. And again, too, reggaeton is at a point where...
So for me, I was born and raised in Syracuse and essentially have lived here my whole life. And so I'm from a more suburban part of Syracuse, not necessarily like the downtown or city area. But I say that because a lot of the hip hop that I was exposed to growing up was mainly at my school, and you know, the school bus, like kind of when you're growing up, and if you have any experience like taking a school bus, you know, that identity and my experience, especially my experience with music and how I relate to it. Because I would say partly because of the lyricism, but just in general because I think it's a very defining genre of our generation, kind of my generation, you know, only being 22 years old. Hip hop's fame and popularity was really skyrocketing when we were growing up.
I grew up in Carolina, Puerto Rico. That is right next to the capital, San Juan, right there. So it's like kind of like part of the metropolitan area, but it's big like Staten Island. You know what I'm talking about? And so Carolina is known for being a quote unquote ghetto town. I am not certain of the accuracy that this insinuation has. I grew up in Carolina. I'm not sure what exactly would make it ghetto, but Carolina is also known for actually harboring a lot of reggaeton artists. I grew up much more surrounded by reggaeton everywhere, except in my house. My mom hated reggaeton. It was like a very like, you know, grimy type of genre. Not, my father would always say that it was not true music because, you know, there's no vocalizing or like salsa or instrumentals like that. So definitely there was like a generational gap there. I did come to the US. In the US, it became a part of my identity in a weird way because, of course, I'm Puerto Rican and everyone knows Daddy Yankee. You know, it would be like the first thing to pop up in a conversation, like, oh, like, Daddy Yankee, yo. So in that way, I started being proud of it in a way that, not that I wasn't before, but it just became such a stamp of being Puerto Rican, I guess, to me.
I just needed to share them. So the first one is this one. It's a song that was released in summer 2019 by Bad Bunny and Residente. They're both Puerto Rican artists. And they released this song a few days before the biggest protest in the island's history. The artists, especially reggaeton artists from Puerto Rico, really played such a huge part in this protest and in this historical moment. As you can see there, like on the left, you see Ricky Martin, Bad Bunny, and Rene, and then other artists like PJ Sinzuela were also very involved in this protest. And so the quote says, all the walls say Ricky leave. Ricky was the governor of Puerto Rico. And it is not vandalism. Vandalism is that we fight with each other to defend those who threw us to the abyss. Vandalism is that we always vote for the same people. So a really short, really quick background. There's a lot of political problems in the island due that we are a colony of the United States, a territory of the United States. And there has been a lot of problems. And then this march was to have our governor quit or to get our Ricky out of office. And it was the first time in Puerto Rican history that a governor actually left his office. And this is just a really powerful song. And then there's another quote in the next, yeah. So here, the one on top is from Bad Bunny, and long story short, it's just talking about, the song talks about how he wants to be a drug dealer, and that has always been his dream since day one. And most people's reaction to this song is very negative because it's talking about how he doesn't want to be an engineer, he doesn't want to go to school, but he wants to be a drug dealer. But then there's this one line in the song that says, schools are closing while drug points keep opening. So I ask you, what can I do? And this really touches on what is going on in the island, because in the past 2 or 3 years, they have closed over 300 public schools. And I really like how like Bad Bunny, among a lot of other Puerto Rican artists, really talk about the problems that are going on in the island that are not heard of anywhere else. and they bring awareness to it in their songs. And then the last one is La Perla by René and Rubén Blades. And La Perla is that neighborhood that you see in the picture that's very colorful. La Perla has a really bad rep that is very dangerous, that people shouldn't go down there because they sell drugs, and it's like the hood and whatever. But it's really a very beautiful neighborhood with so much history and so much livelihood in it. And so this song is a song dedicated to that neighborhood, and it says, the quote says, as my grandma used to say, this was back at the poor man's house, even the fetus is working. So in the song itself, is just talking about the beauty of the neighborhood, but it also touches on the struggles and about how everybody in that neighborhood works, is from a working class.
No, so when I first started listening to reggaeton, which is obviously when I was around 8 years old, 6 years old and whatnot, you can kind of see reflected the type of thing that Nicole has been talking about. I think it's very evident that Puerto Rico is a colorist island. There is a strong form of colorism, and that has been depicted in illustrations and music videos in reggaeton. The funniest thing to me, I actually used to play this game, that whenever I would watch a reggaeton video, a music video, and they always, a lot of the reggaeton music videos will say morena, which kind of means brown or black woman. It didn't always happen, but what did happen sometimes was that you would see the music video and they would be like morena, morena, and then like the woman in the video is just white. And it was just like profoundly confused me, because the whole song is like morena, morena, ooh. Is this that? Nicole is laughing because it's true. It's very true. And then it was also a certain type of body type. It's very interesting because growing up, I know with my father and everything like that, the type of like Caribbean body type has always been beautified, you know what I mean? So it's like kind of like the hourglass, the big hips, big butt. But sometimes I would go to videos, and this is another funny thing about it, is that they would be like, oh my God, her butt, oh, and then you would just see someone so skinny. And not to say that it's bad to be skinny, these are beautiful women, but I just would get confused. Again, like I'm like, do you know what these words mean? I don't know. But you do see this transition as time goes on, in which, first of all, there is more female representation slightly. So there's people like Ivy Queen. Ivy Queen is known for being the queen of reggaeton. She is a brown, light-skinned woman. And something with her that she actually does exemplify. I used to think that she was white and blonde, because in her music videos and in her photos, they would lighten her skin and they would always dye her hair blonde. So if you actually do look up pictures of her, she is a light-skinned brown woman, and she has big lips, and she has, you know, this mixture, this Puerto Rican mixture. And those type of things started fading. Like as time transitioned, you would see more black women, more brown women in the videos. You would see more of this kind of like not this specific type of body type. And I would say lyrically as well, there has been kind of like a broadening of the topics that reggaeton touches. So especially like Nicole mentioned, these are perfect examples, especially Yo Perreo Sola, I dance, twerk, wine alone. There's not a direct translation for that, but it's a unique word, a beautiful word at that. This song was absolutely, people were shook. People like, if you can see reaction videos, I recommend them because they're hilarious. It is hilarious to see straight Latino men be so shocked and attacked by Bad Bunny wearing like a dress. They're just shocked. They're like, what is he doing? Like, oh my God, calm down, you know? But yeah, reggaeton has changed in so many ways, and it has evolved. It has gotten a lot of hip-hop influence, definitely. It has brought so many array of topics, and it's also because the people that are coming into the genre are changing, right? So reggaeton used to be underground, Puerto Rican, and it actually transitioned into being a world phenomenon. So that means that it became a part of pop mainstream culture. So
other music genres as well, and not singular to hip hop. And I think hip hop and reggaeton can be very similar in their kind of just the issues that Christian just brought up of, you know, sexism and the sexualization of women, or you know, how it's perceived. I think hip hop and reggaeton are similar in those ways because at least I feel, you know, for me growing up listening to hip hop and certain artists, you know, I feel that it almost has become normalized. I mean, it definitely has, like, right? It's just, you know, it has become very normalized in songs to hear like women, only seeing women of specific body types and specific skin colors, and only, you know, women being very sexualized and objectified, has become a very like it's a very common thing, especially when you like are born into it, right? And you kind of grow up and that's all you know. So I think that's important because it's very much something that we internalize as human beings, right? That people do. That is, oh, it kind of sets a standard, right, in your society that this is what's okay and this is how the narrative is going to continue. But it is artists like Bad Bunny and all these like, you know, all these like female rappers that I can think of.
Not that big though, kind of smaller, but you know, like I also like sometimes growing up in my poorer backgrounds, it's like you want these things are just so separated from you and so outside of like what you think is possible, that it is like kind of nice, right, to like see it, kind of like entertaining to see this music videos and see these poor people, quote unquote, kind of like getting to that status. But at the same time, there is like a consumerist undertone that especially now that, of course, now that I have higher education and I've like studied capitalism and things like that more. There is also something unhealthy about kind of like growing up and feeling like
when it comes to classism, like it's really either or. It's either I have a lot of money or I'm like broke. There's really no in between. Like there's no middle class in this genre, as to say. And whenever the artists are talking from one point of view, they're looking down on the other. So when they're talking about how I have so much money, they're looking down on people that don't have money. Or when they say like, oh, I wasn't given anything, I've been working for what I've had, like I deserve what I have, they're just looking down on other artists that actually have had you know, things given to them or whatever. So I feel like that's the main topic in classism that I've seen.
Yourself?
Hello.
Can you hear her?
Yeah. For those who don't know me, I just wanted to say that you guys really did a great job talking about the different perspectives of reggaeton and what hip-hop is. But I wanted to kind of like agree with what Bennie and Nicole was kind of saying along the same line of what reggaeton is and what it's all about. And I think that one of the things that I guess you kind of implied from what you guys said is that I feel like the reason why reggaeton is so I guess effective in the music industry is because it's a genre that is real. It doesn't matter that they're saying something like whether it's right or wrong in society. It's something that is real. It's something that people can relate to, whether it's violence, whether it's sexism, whether it's all these kind of topics that are, you know, controversial in society. They're real. So that's why I guess more than any other generation, we can relate to. And that's why I think that, for example, with my mom, like she's not going to be able to relate to like most of the songs that I listen to, but it's because of the generation that we are currently in, where we're just so open to different topics, even if they're controversial, even if we're talking about sexism, classism, racism, all these things. Because in my mom's generation or my grandparents' generation, everything was just a taboo. Nobody would talk about these things. Nobody would even mention them. And even in a song, when they're kind of being sexist, you know, it was not something that you talk about. It's something that you would do, and that's it. You would not explicitly put it out there. So I think that's why most of us and our generation, it's so into reggaeton because it's real. Whether